I probably shouldn't admit this, but you remember that terrible Rebecca Black song Friday? Like every Friday now, that song always comes into my brain. And it's every Friday. Like that's how I always remember that it's Friday, is because that song just starts playing in my head. And it has nothing to do with the video. But it was just a strange thing that happened before I turned on the recording. So, a few things. Uh, Jack Irons, The Steel Cowboy, issue 3, is up on Indiegogo. And this is a project I don't mind backing because they have they have put out their product. So I've well, I'll talk about it a little bit later, but I've been going through the drama videos and everything like that, and you know we're going to talk about it, but back Jack Irons because they have stayed out of it. They have put out their product, and I know that they had a really rough time with issue 2. So I'm assuming that they have worked out a lot of the kinks and that they're, you know, going to have an easier time this time around. So as you can see, there's 32 days left. Back it. It's been a it's been a really interesting comic so far, and they're doing it per issues. So yeah, I would say back it because this is kind of a really interesting one. Another product is Beastlands 1 and 2. Now, they had a Kickstarter originally, and that's what got them funded for issue 1 and issue 2. My understanding is that they're coming here on issue 2. You can still get number 1, but well, yeah, this is probably going to take a little bit more explanation. So I think they did the way that technically crowdfunding should go, in that they went to Kickstarter and they got the backing for it. And then for this one, they also went to Kickstarter to fund issue 2. But now that issue 2 is funded, they're coming to Indiegogo and they're doing the in demand store, which I think is actually pretty good. I mean, I do think that that's actually a really good way of doing it because the way that the two platforms seem to be, I think it kind of makes sense to just kind of do it that way. And I backed this one because, I mean, I thought the art looked really nice. And it is a fantasy. And of course, I love fantasy stuff. And I'm really enjoying exploring fantasy comics. So this is another product that I would say take a look at, see if you like it, give it a try. It is a fantasy story. Now, the drama. So I looked at this article by Bounding into Comics, and it's talk about the craziness of what's going on with the Vic Mignogna and the people who call themselves Kick Vic, and just the insanity that is going on with their like. I've looked, I've looked through that. I've waded through that. I'm not necessarily truly fully interested in it because although I love anime and I love Dragon Ball Z, I can't I can't necessarily say that I fully care about the lives of the voice actors. Now I do know that what I cannot appreciate and cannot stand is them maligning a person's name, especially when you go looking into a lot of their past and a lot of their actions and, seeing the way that they behaved. And it certainly, I mean, Vegeta is my favorite character on Dragon Ball Z. So, to even hear the kind of person that Chris Sabat is just really kind of upsets me, because I've always loved his voice as Vegeta when it comes to the English dubs. But for me, it's not nearly as much of a problem because all that just means is that I'll just turn it on to the Japanese dub. But I mean, it's kind of getting it's kind of getting off topic because what's really well, yeah, what's really been interesting me is just the sheer amount of this similar kind of drama thing. So in this article, it talks about someone on YouTube who calls himself a Kick Vic supporter, thinking that it's okay for all of the people who think like that person does getting together and physically assaulting Vic. And, you know, when you have that kind of attitude on top of what we see Johnny Depp has gone through with Amber Heard, on top of what I'm starting to see around, the comic book industry, and yes, I'm including Comicsgate in that. Like what I'm starting to see is just the sheer amount of ugliness. And I don't like drama. I really don't like drama, but I do believe in being informed. And part of being informed means wading through at least the drama so that I can, as an outsider, look in and see what the heck is going on, if only so that I can avoid it. Now, I don't know how long this video is going to be because I'm certainly not going to complain, but I'm seeing a worrying trend of behavior. And, part of the reason that I liked Comicsgate as a movement is because as a consumer, as a consumer, I loved the idea of being able to say, "Hey, DC, I see what you're doing, and I don't like it, and I kind of don't want to support it." And you know, I mean, I still maintain it because I want good Superman comics. I'm not getting good Superman comics, so as a consumer, I'm saying I'm not talking as a fan, I'm talking as someone who purchases. I want good product, and I've seen this shifting happen in the Comicsgate community, and I'm not really enthused by what I'm seeing. Now, I'm an adult, and I always say that I'm an adult, so I don't care about this kind of club mentality because I'm not joining. I didn't come to Comicsgate to join a club. I came to join a movement, which there's really no membership in a movement. It's essentially, hey, we're all headed in the same direction, and if I see you start going off course, I'm going to keep heading in the right direction, and that's kind of how I've always treated it. So, you know, I mentioned this because I'm looking at a lot of the behavior, and for me, of course, a lot of it I know has to do with social media. And like this is kind of a hard video because it's not necessarily taking people to task and not necessarily complaining because I don't want to complain about it. It's essentially like for me, I look at the Indiegogos that have not yet been fulfilled and are late. And for some of them, we are coming on to a full year of not receiving product. And so when you begin to put that money together and you realize that that's hundreds of dollars. Now, I do read, you know, what Indiegogo, sorry, I do read what Indiegogo says. So I know that I'm backing a project. It doesn't mean that because they're protecting themselves. So they're saying, there's no guarantee that it's going to be fulfilled because you're not buying a product, you're backing something. So I am looking at it that way. But because I'm also looking at it that way, which means I'm looking at it in terms of investment, it's also telling me that it is time for people to start getting wiser to some of these things. Now, I mentioned I don't mind backing Jack Irons because I got my issue one, I got my issue two. When they were having trouble with the issue two, they still shipped issue one and they kept up with letting you know what was going on and how much of a learning experience this was for them. And, and it worked out because I got my product and I was pleased with it. You know, other products I've gotten, like I've been very pleased with everything that I've gotten with, I've gotten from Dr. Naple. He has done a phenomenal job of being on time. So I've never had to really wait. I don't mind waiting. I don't mind waiting a few months because, one of the things that I like is that, you know, DNC for his Jawbreakers campaign and his first Iron Sights, he used those as opportunities to learn. And so now that we're in, you know, Jawbreakers God King and Iron Sights 2, he's gotten much better because he's learned how to streamline his process so that people don't have to wait. Because that is, the future of comics. There's something nice about knowing what is supposed to come out at the time it's supposed to be coming out. And I'm mentioning all of this in part because it does bother me because I'm seeing that when other people are pointing this out to certain creators on Indiegogo, they're starting to behave exactly like the people who they've been complaining about. And I forget the guy's name, but the guy who did the Hawaiian Dick, who has not produced his product, and Jamal Eichel, who, from my understanding, and I don't know, it might have changed at this point, but who hadn't fulfilled his, and they're going on years at this point. And so when I'm beginning to see the same behavior out of these same people, I'm beginning to look at a pattern, and I'm trying to, for me, as an educational point, understand that pattern. Now, I do say that a lot of it has to do with social media because I do think that many of these creators spend way too much time on social media, and I include YouTube on that. You know, for me, because I am in the middle of writing a book, and like I know I need to get this book done. I don't have a hard timeline for myself, but I do know that I want to, like this year I have a plan to get at least 3 books out. I have one out currently, and then there's two more drafts that I have that I can work with. So this year is not going to be a problem getting out the 3 books that I'm looking for. But, on top of that, having 3 drafts is not enough. I also need to worry about next year because I need to have things prepared for next year so that I can keep moving forward and quicken the process. So, what does that mean? That means getting myself together now. That means making sure I have in mind the stories that I want to write, the note cards that are needed, all the notes, all the plotting, all of it. And that takes so much time to where I can only really do 1 or 2 videos a day. And I spend no time on Twitter. I still have a Twitter account, but I don't spend any time on Twitter. And that's actually a good thing because I don't have to get into the arguments with people. I don't have to see and deal with a lot of a lot of the mess and the drama. Yes, I know that I need the Twitter, which is why I have it because occasionally you send out a tweet and you go on about your business. But this, like, I see Comicsgate becoming equally as much a club as the mainstream comics and the SJWs that they claim to despise are creating. So you're now creating two different clubs, and the two different clubs are on their sides of social media, and they're telling regular people that you have to abide by our club rules if you want to be part of it. And so, where are we getting anything different? Because I look at like what's happening with Kick and with Kick Vic, and I mean this is why like the video's gone like well beyond what I wanted to talk about. But when you look at this is how you're getting these Kick Vic situations happening because it's becoming so easy nowadays for people to just malign someone's name and to just malign their name because you disagree with them. And I'm seeing it on both sides. And that is really, 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 really becoming a problem and a danger. And so I know for me, I have never really liked drama. So my commitment to staying out of drama is definitely high enough that, I will do my information gathering and then go on about my business for the next however many years until I'm ready to gather more intel. My feeling and my thought process, because I do still say, because I still do say that overall, Indiegogo is not going to be sustainable. And it's not going to be sustainable for, I think, the majority of the product. Now, your few buyers club members are probably gonna, I mean, that's probably gonna be fine, and that's gonna be the platform that they're gonna stay at forever. But, you know, for people like me who like to think beyond that, it's I'm still I'm still convinced that long-term thinking needs to come into play and long-term thinking that says, what are we going to do beyond Indiegogo? Where are the actual platforms going to be built? Where are we actually going to get it get it done? From my understanding, I know that for I think with Vic Mignogna, you're kind of excommunicated from the job club you'd been at, so you create your own. And I I admire that. Certainly, I really hope that he is successful because one of the things that does bother me, and this goes for like my feelings for Johnny Depp too. Like I really want them to be successful because I am so sick and tired of people being able to lie on others. But I know that it's going to be a hard climb. I know it's going to be a very hard climb because we're now entering this phase where people are just able to be really ugly. And my attitude of Twitter has never changed. And in fact, like the more evidence that comes out, the more it just proves my point. Twitter is not the real world. And we say that all the time. It's not the real world, but it is the heart condition. It's it's the heart condition. The ugliness that people feel comfortable expressing is in fact their real level of ugliness. They just know that they can't get away with it in their regular life, so they take it to Twitter, they take it to Instagram, they take it to YouTube, they take it to Facebook, they take it to these different platforms where they can express that ugliness and be completely hideously ugly people. It's because in this article, basically the person was talking about how it's a bright idea about how everyone should just jump Vic Mignogna, like talking about assault as if it's not even a big deal, talking about it. And okay, so that's that's really probably where that's really probably my premise. And then I got caught up in my information gathering. Social media has created a lot of these kind of internet tough guys. And that's, like we all know what a tough guy is, someone who thinks that they could take on anyone. And that's really all we're seeing. So we're seeing a bunch of people who are self consumed, people who are probably narcissists, people who, well, yeah, they are narcissists because whether you feel powerless or empowered, when you're only concerned about the way that you feel and you do everything and treat people around you in a way that makes you feel better and makes you feel like the image you want to express, that is a form of narcissism because you are being incredibly selfish and self consumed. So it's creating a lot of these people who, you know, because they've been able to get away with it, because, like what Vic has had to go through with his court case, and now you're having to appeal. What Richard Meyer or your boy Zach, what he's going through with Mark Wade. It's the internet has been both really good and bad because it's been good in that it's allowed people who are far from one another to begin to connect, but it's become terrible because it has become extremely difficult to enact civility, you know? And so when you have this kind of like loosey goosey, it's hard to prove, slander, hard to prove that you're being harassed, hard to prove these things because there's no set standard. You're getting a lot of people who are getting away with this extremely ugly behavior. And, I cannot talk about one side. I cannot talk about what I'm seeing in the mainstream comic industry without pointing out what I'm seeing in what was formerly known as the Comicsgate community, because that same level of ugliness makes you exactly like the people you claim to be different from. And, you know, certainly, like for me, I have been doing all kind of soul searching, all kind of thought thinking. I've, have kept very much out of it for that reason because the last thing that I want is to be pulled into mess and drama that takes me away from the creativity that I'm getting back into. So, my hope for other people who are creators and creatively minded is to possibly give the social media a break. I definitely know that Comics Matter with your boy Zach has talked about it numerous times that social media, because it is a distraction, because it keeps you in that mess, it keeps you in your emotions, and it does keep you in your emotions because you will always find something to be angry about on social media. And I like it's been more than a year now. It's been more than a year now since I have abstained from being on Twitter. So certainly my life is a heck of a lot calmer as a result. So it's part of why I can say that I would encourage anyone to stay off of it. Lower your blood pressure, leave the trolls and stuff alone. Like that stuff should be fun only for a moment, and then your adult brain should kick in. And when you're a creator, you can't sit there and complain about other creators having a certain attitude with with customers, with fans, with people who are criticizing them, and then engage in the same behavior because that is exactly what I'm beginning to see. I do think that it is time for everyone to kind of sit back and reassess. And I know, like, my channel is so small, so it's hardly, my opinion hardly matters in this, but I do know that, as I said, for me, I just like I I'm thinking about me in this moment and I'm thinking about my future as a creator and kind of I guess to a degree not necessarily thinking about me because I'm also thinking about the platforming ability and things like that because I do know that as much as I want to be as much as I want to be a success, I do want other people to be a success and I do want people I want creative people to be healthy because I do understand that there is a certain sensitivity that comes with being a creative because a lot of times it is hard for us to take criticisms because we spend so much time with our work that it's hard for us to see it objectively. So, a lot of the behavior and a lot of the attitude and stuff like that, I do understand it as a creator because it is hard to hear. It is very hard to hear criticism and to hear people say that they don't like what you did. But, and I guess this kind of goes with a interview that I heard with what's his name, Seth Godin, and where he talked about he no longer looks at his reviews. He no longer engages in the way that he did because, you know, he has a few people whose opinion that he values more than anybody else. And, essentially he's basically, and I guess to a degree, Rob Liefeld, which is why I kind of like what his response was, where it's that same thing. I know the people who are my customer. So why would I listen to people who are not my customer? Why would I listen to people who are not who I'm looking for when I could just be myself, do what I do, and know that the people who enjoy what I do will come? Because that is what business is supposed to be. You shouldn't have to join a club. You shouldn't have to create this kind of like club mentality whereby I'm going to gather people to myself and I'm going to keep them there, sort of thing. And I don't know, good grief. This is a hard video because a lot of it is for me thinking it through, kind of speculating. So I, um, the only thing that I could really say is it's probably time for people to get out of the drama and maybe begin to put a little distance between themselves and the drama, and certainly, do it without destroying other people's lives. Because the one thing that is not going to age well is to be known as someone who destroyed the life of an innocent person. And we are fast reaching that phase. It's why I was not a fan of the Me Too movement because I could see the writing on the wall and I don't care. Like, I understand that people who do things should get in trouble, but the danger, and we are now in that place where that danger is, and I will call it like it is. We are in that place where the danger is, where now people are just being able to accuse people that they don't like. And because they have a lot of, and I'm doing air quotes, friends, because they've built this club around themselves of people who agree with them and go exactly where they want them to go, you're now seeing people who are innocent have their whole lives destroyed simply because they can't be part of the club, or because they were part of the club but now they don't want to be part of the club, or whatever high school little foolishness is going on. Everyone needs to give the Mean Girls routine a break because it's not working. It's not a good look. And you get you get what you reap what you sow. And that's just reality. And so the danger is going to be that one day when what would happen one day when you end up in that same position you put somebody else? What happens when the accusations begin flying at you? Because inevitably it will. And will you have people then in your corner? Because that becomes a problem. So that's about all that I have because I've got work to do. I've been on a roll. I would like to keep that up. So if you like this, hit the like button, hit the like button. Oh my goodness. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, do the bell stuff for notifications, share this, do all of that. I still have a headache from yesterday, and that's probably why I'm slurring my words terribly. And I do think I am sick, but have I have to work, so I will see you in the next video. Bye.